Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to the August 17th meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I'm President Becky Greenwald. I'm going to start off today with a little Rotary factoid. I was thinking about next week when we're going to be having an extra event at the Botanical Gardens, enjoying some music in the garden. And I thought, last year we did that $40,000 community grant. And they're building right now the Children's Nature Play Area project that is really due to the generosity of you, our club members, and our $40,000 grant. Here's a little picture of President Kim Perez last year sharing the plans with us. And we might even be able to see part of that project. It's still a work in progress. And when they get it completed, we'll be able to get out there for some ribbon cutting ceremonies later this fall. But I started thinking, why don't we really start doing grants of this size every year? And so Kitty looked some things up for me, and we actually started investing just 10 years ago on a regular basis on community grants. And the grants were at first 5 years, we were giving out $25,000 a year. And so 5 years, those grant dollars, the $25,000 was divvied up between either 3 or 5 different organizations. And then 5 years ago in 2018, we upped our game, increased the annual grant from $25,000 to $40,000 a year, and decided to be giving the money to just one organization so they could do something really substantial with our money and the funds. And I just think that we have accomplished so much in these 10 years with just that idea that was sparked back in 2013. And since then, we've already pumped $285,000 back into our community, and after this year, we'll be over $300,000. And we've assisted 26 organizations with our dollars, which come from our Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation. And they've all been such worthwhile projects, and I'm just sure that you will agree that we all can be very proud to be part of our Rotary Club of Des Moines, where our Rotary Club number 27 means business. So give yourselves a big hand for making that possible. Well, now speaking of big hands, we need to say happy birthday to Steve Jacobs, who's here celebrating his birthday today with us in the back room. Happy birthday, Steve. He paid me not to sing. Okay. And also, we want to give a belated happy birthday to our speaker, Chuck Kuba, who celebrated yesterday. So happy birthday, Chuck. And now as Rich Leopold makes his way to the podium, I wanted to be sure that you all know that this year, Rich is our Community Service Committee Vice Chair. So he stepped into that role, and next year he'll be our Chair for Community Service. And today, he's going to give us a moment of inspiration, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and our 5-way test. Thanks, Rich.
So, I thought about this today, and I've sat by Chuck a few times here at Rotary, and sometimes there's gentle ribbing. He's just a really nice guy, so I couldn't do that. And I thought, well, I have a scientific background. I'll talk about giant diamonds and gemology. I don't know anything about that. So I reevaluated and thought, I look out, and I've had so many interactions out here, and we have so many people that are ingrained in business and governments and industry and nonprofit world. I thought, I'm going to do something like that. I'm a collector of quotes, so I'm just going to throw this one out by a gentleman named David Morris. He's a politician and civil rights activist in Ireland, actually. We live in an era of great change, but change is not necessarily progress. As Bertrand Russell said, change is inevitable while progress is problematic. Change is scientific while progress is ethical. We will have change, whether we will it or not. But we will have progress only if we develop strategies that channel investment capital and entrepreneurial energies and scientific genius in directions compatible with our dearly held beliefs. This means strategies that defend and nurture place-based enterprises as the building blocks and lifeblood of dynamic, self-conscious, and healthy communities. And that last sentence, I think that sounds like Rotary. With that, if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Five-way test.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And is it fun?
Spend a moment to greet your neighbors. I've already ate 2 of them. You gotta go. You gotta go. I went to the fair yesterday and had receptions.
Okay, everybody, it's tumbler time. Now that we know what all the good is that those dollars do, please consider donating $5 if you don't have the little green sign on your name badge. And even if you do, we wouldn't mind if you decided to donate some more to our Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation. And just want to thank you for your continued support. It's great to see the things that we have done and the things that we can do going forward. I am so excited to tell you this next announcement. We formed our club back in 1911, and today, in the name of fun and doing good on behalf of Rotary, I'm issuing the 1911 Challenge. So you're going, oh boy, what is this? Well, there are many multiple ways that you help our club, and you've helped us already become the vibrant organization that it is. And we're going to have some fun with that. We're going to give you a chance to earn some points for the things that you already do and maybe decide to up your game a little bit. So we've got these flyers on the table, and Kitty will have a link in our newsletter on Tuesday to get to this actively where you can actually tally things up. But what we'd like to do is we're not going to do an ice bucket challenge. That's too cold. But so you think about this, the ice bucket challenge or the 1911 challenge? Well, let's go for this one. And what we do is you collect points up to 1,911 points. And when you get there, then you will have bragging rights to have been a part of the 1911 Challenge Achiever group. And those achievers are going to be put into a hat, their names, and we'll have a drawing, and some lucky person is going to end up with credit towards their next Paul Harris Fellow. So and then plus the bragging rights of knowing what you've done to be an achiever. And so we really hope that you grab this, have some fun with this, look around and see who you're going to challenge within the club to go on this journey with you and see who's going to make the 1,911 points sooner than later. And it's all doing things that contribute to our club. You can see here that if you bring a prospective member just to come visit our club, you get 500 points. If that person decides to become a member, they get another 500 points. Heck, if you do that with 2 people, you've already got 2,000 points and you already hit the achiever category. Or other things you can do. When you're attending our meetings, you give yourself 25 points for everything that you come to, whether it's our Thursday meetings, our second Tuesdays, Second Chance Tuesdays, or whatever, our event in September at Jester Park. You give your money to the Rotary Club of Foundation. We do the $150 cup donation. If you've already done that, you get to add 150 points right there, because you've already done it. If you got your green sign on your badge, or if you decide to do it. or you give additional money, you can add extra points there. You decide to give money to our Rotary International Fund, well, kudos to you, you'll get $2 for every dollar that you contribute there. And we always are looking for people to do our moments of inspiration and collecting our tumbler dollars, so you get extra points if you sign up to do that. And if you go to one of our community service points, yay, 100 points you throw in for every time you do it. So I really hope you grab this, decide to have some fun, find out how other members are doing with that, and let's see how many achievers that we have out here in our 1911 challenge. So I guess I have one big question. Are you in? Yeah? Great, all right, okay. So we'll be looking, we're not gonna tell exactly how you got your points to get to 1911, but we'll let people know when you get there as an achiever, okay? So we're really looking forward to having some fun with that.
Is there a deadline?
Well, it's this year,
Okay.
so this year, but we're gonna be, but I'll be looking to announce the people that come through already, and then when you do get them, you just let Kitty know, and then we'll know to announce you as being, and then you can always go for your second round, who knows, yeah. But let's just have some fun and accept that challenge. So remembering too, the 5-way test, so we're gonna have it all on your honor. You decide, you mark down, you're in these meetings, mark down 4, multiply it, you do that, and we'll have a good old time with this one. And I also want to remind you to check with Kitty and check out the Where in the World is Club 27 sign, either with or without the stick, and let us know where you've been having some fun traveling or fun things that you're doing right here locally with friends and family or work. So we like to see those slides going up at the meetings as well. And next, I want to bring Susan Charmer back up to the podium. Susan does such a wonderful job introducing and doing moments of inspiration. So thank you, Susan, for joining us today.
Thank you, Becky. It's my great pleasure to introduce Chuck Kuba to you today. Now, we all know Chuck as Hail Fellow Well Met here at Rotary, but there is actually more than meets the eye when it comes to Chuck. Chuck was raised in Chicago and later in Florida. He spent his senior year in high school traveling with Up With People. You all remember Up With People? I do. As I recall, it was the first concert where I got to wear stockings. I thought it was pretty great. But Up With People was quite a movement in the late 60s, and Chuck was a big part of that. He graduated from the University of Nebraska in Performing Arts Management. He was a member of Sigma Phi Epsilon, and I believe there's some other Sig Eps here if I recall correctly. Chuck plays the double bass, which seems like an excellent fit for Chuck. He worked at the Lead Center for Performing Arts through the University of Nebraska. And after college, he served as the director of marketing for the Dallas Opera. He then went to the Asolo Center for Performing Arts in Sarasota, Florida, and on to the Florida Philharmonic. It was in 1993 that Chuck returned to the Midwest and began working for Nebraska Diamond. Now I know I'm not the only one working in an area other than my college major. There's a few of us, I think. To our good fortune, Chuck became the owner of Iowa Diamond more than 24 years ago. He's a graduate of the Gemological Institute of America and past president of the Iowa Jewelers Association. So Chuck is a business owner, a gemologist, and a professional double bass player. And he still finds time to make music all over town. So please help me welcome Chuck to the podium.
Only half of that was true. I had to give her something that. Yeah, there's certain things that you don't want to admit in life. Traveling with Up With People to some people that maybe never even saw the show is not necessarily thought as high art. Neither is being a tenor. Sorry, every time I gotta do it. I have to do it. So
Brought the house down, Chuck. Keep it up.
I'm going to actually take you back first to kind of the beginnings of why diamonds are used and why people buy them. I mean, jewelers as a whole were held in the same regard as physicians way back, 1300s, 1400s, and because they thought that you could cure diseases. For instance, they grind up rubies and drink them and think that that was going to help cure blood diseases. And so they worked almost like a pharmacist along with physicians. And I probably just killed the patient. I don't know, they didn't get blamed for it. But that, with diamonds, which is a real source of where I'm going to get to as fast as I can, and the changes and why it started, within that whole structure of jewels having special powers, diamonds were thought to give you strength, that help you sleep better. If a woman wore a diamond, her husband would be more attracted to her. And so back in the 1400s, the only way you could get a diamond was that they were all alluvial deposits. They were washed there. There was no mining that was done. And the only way they could polish them, because it takes a diamond to polish a diamond, so they would grind up diamonds, put them on a piece of leather, the oiled leather, and then holding a diamond crystal, which are octahedral, or two four-sided pyramids glued together. They kept rubbing it until there was a shiny window into the stone, and that theoretically, they thought, released some of these powers and would give you strength. Napoleon had in the hilt of his sword, what they think was the French blue, which later became the Hope diamond. And he had that there not for adornment. He thought it made him stronger, and so it was a common thing. And as time went on, in the 1477, Archduke Maximilian was going to marry Mary of Burgundy, and it was going to be an important relationship that I think led on to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And she wanted, in honor of their betrothal, a gold ring set with a diamond. And it wasn't to be confused with a marriage gift. It was for in honor of the betrothal. So we think that that was the first known engagement ring. The ring, I've seen drawings of it and things, and the ring was more evident. Nobody ever really saw the diamond. Got stolen, probably recut, as did the French blue, and ended up being the Hope diamond. So, you know, there's a lot of history behind all of those things, but there are drawings of it, and there are even engravings of her showing it off. So we have some proof that she had it and wore it. The reason I'm starting that far early is because then, now I'm going to move really quickly, but it had to do with how do you get them? And eventually, some kids tripped over them in South Africa. And that was the first time they came up with an actual main site deposit of diamonds. The way diamonds had been created entirely in the past was volcanically. The way the tectonic plates were at the time, but this is 3 billion years ago, as they were shifting down on the bottom, anything that looked like pencil lead, anything that was carbon, would get to the point where the heat and the pressure was such that it would crystallize the carbon and create a diamond. And the way those plates were at that time allowed volcanic activity on the top part of it, and that 55, 60 miles an hour came up to the surface and laid there for 2.5 billion years. Didn't take 2.5 billion years to make them, but now, after that length of time, it kept building what they call overburden on it until that's what they're mining in order to go down to get the naturally occurring diamonds. If it was in an area that washed them out to sea, like in Namibia, there's a lot of water mining that's done. All that got washed out from volcanic activity originally. And so whether it's found with pans or anything else started underground. And then took a long time to get to, but people live under the misconception that it took that long to grow them. It did not. It just took us a long time to get to them. Now, why did we do it? Well, we think it was because of Mary of Burgundy, because that really did. See, nobody could afford them, but as they could afford them, as they got dug up and cut and polished and became an industry, as that happened, it formed all kinds of pockets of discovery and turning them into a type of international money. And we were just talking about a little bit earlier, with all of the conflicts and things that go on in Africa, which can either be religious or they can also be tribal. But in all of the different African nations, Botswana, Rwanda, Namibia, South Africa, that they use them stolen. They'll go in, the rebels steal them in order to be able to buy things. And a buddy of mine saw a box about the size of a shoebox get carried onto a C-130 transport, and off came a tank. He just bought a tank with a box of diamonds. So when you hear that diamonds were used, a quote-unquote blood diamond, didn't have anything to do with buying diamonds that somebody could wear. They wanted them to be able to use for monetary transactions. It still goes on, but it's against the law for us as retailers to sell them. We also, at this point, can't sell Russian diamonds. Most of those are mined up around Siberia, and they have an agreement with the cartel that they would keep half of them and then sell half through the regular channels. And the reason that they did that was they didn't want to pay a commission on stuff that was theirs already. And the agreement was that if they did that, then they would not have India cut and polish them, because it's so much cheaper to do it there than in other circles like Antwerp or Ramat Gan, Israel is a big center, and of course New York, except there it's really expensive, so only big stones get cut in New York anymore. So all of that, that's kind of where we are today with diamonds. However, and this is why I think probably they asked me to speak about it, is, and don't think you can go out and do this in your garage, because you can't. But there was a few guys from MIT had a brilliant idea, and they figured out, along with, I think the money came from the Baltimore area, and then also, I think in Switzerland, there was one of the guys that put up the money to figure it out. They figured out how to grow diamonds in a laboratory. Now they've, since the early 50s, been able to create diamonds using big pieces of machinery that would replicate the intense heat and pressure that was created 5 miles down originally. So they could make diamonds, but they had to be done in a nitrogen-rich environment, and that's what turns diamonds yellow. So it was really hard for it to, most of those diamonds were manufactured in order to be able to use it for industrial purposes, nail files or drill bits, things. So it wasn't a real source that we could sell on the retail end of things. Now, you can't let it lie there, though. I mean, somebody's going to come up with a better mousetrap, and these guys from MIT figured out that since diamonds were 100% carbon, there ought to be some way to grow them. But how do you do that? How do you get 100% carbon? It's almost impossible. Well, I'll tell you how they do it. And it's almost a secret formula. You can find out about it. And I have seen the actual equipment. It's smaller than this deal here. That it has a tray in it, is a chamber. And what they do is they take some synthetic diamond that had been grown, and it's just a little shaving. It's not any thicker than a hair. And they put in squares. just glue them down. Then in that chamber, they put in hydrogen, and using electricity, they turn it into a plasma. And if you want to get an idea about how that's done or what it looks like, just look at a neon sign or a fluorescent tube. Those are plasmas that conduct electricity, and so that's what and spins off the light. So they turn the hydrogen into a plasma. Then they inject methane gas. Methane is carbon and hydrogen. And then using a little more electricity, the hydrogen pulls off the hydrogen from the methane molecules. So atoms, and so that gets taken away or soaked up or whatever. I'm not a scientist, you can probably tell, but it goes away, and then the carbon precipitates. I mean, it like rains onto the seed diamonds, and in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a little block, square block of diamond material is in each one of those little squares, and big enough to do a carat, carat and a quarter, carat and a half diamond. And there's other things that go on in the process, but they're not sophisticated. They 2 or 3 times within that period, they'll take them out and polish them up a little bit and jam them back in again and let it continue. So the way they get the separation is they use microwaves in order to get that whole process to go. So electricity is used, and that's kind of important to know, because some companies say that they're greener. Well, they are kind of, but they're not green. You don't have to dig a hole to get them. So there's no nothing like that. And electric is, you can remake that. It's not like hydrocarbons and things. And it's actually a good thing to use methane, because it's like 20 times worse than CO2 for the environment. So splitting that up and having the carbon go into the diamond and having the hydrogen go back up into the air, it doesn't hurt anything. And so, at least in my company, we're pretty happy about that. In the industry, I would say right now, almost everybody is selling 3 or 4 times more lab-created diamonds than they are naturally occurring, so volcanically created. Every diamond was created. It's just where? What was the origin? Federal Trade Commission is the one that decided how they were, whether or not they were diamonds or whether it was just synthetic material. And there was, you can imagine, the mining industry was going berserk over it, because what was it going to do? And so they were hoping that the Federal Trade Commission would put all kinds of labels on it, and they said no. There was the only way that you can find out. It cost me $6,500 to buy a piece of equipment that can tell the difference. You can't do it with gemscopes, and I mean any of the equipment in a gem laboratory can't do it unless you have. And I don't know how they do it. All I know is we put the diamond in there and they can tell you. And but that, unless you want to buy one of those and carry it around with you, there's not a whole lot you can do except to believe it. And then you come out, because they're probably 40 to 50% less expensive than the naturally occurring stones. And that's, of course, what the industry had to then deal with. The 2 things that they found over the years, for many years, I've been in the business now 30 years, and if you look, test, I'm a big one on testing, and can go to people who are buying engagement diamonds and don't know that you're looking. What are the things that are most important to them? And it comes out over and over and over and over again, the top 2. Want to guess? Somebody guess. Size. Size? No. No, the size and the shape are the 2 biggies. Guys, price gets in there real early, but generally speaking, The top two are the shape of the stone, whether they like a round stone or marquise or a princess cut or an emerald cut. All of the diamonds that I've been talking about act the same, react the same. One of the good things about lab-grown stones, and we do carry them, one of the good things about them is that they're manufactured under conditions that don't have a lot of imperfections in the stone. So when the cutter, they have to be cut and polished just like any other diamond, no matter where it came from. They have to be cut and polished. Most of them have to be the type of I don't know what you would call it. I guess the letters you hear are CVD. If you hear CVD, it's chemical vapor deposition, and that's what we've been talking about right now. If you hear HTHP, that's high temperature, high pressure. And that is done even on many diamonds that were dug out of the ground. To change normally the color of the stone, because it can reposition the structure of the diamond a little bit permanently to be whiter, and get the color out. The same thing is done quite often on lab-created stones. They can have a slight gray color to them sometimes a slight brown color, but not a lot of imperfections. So you can re-irradiate, and incidentally, most diamonds have some color. I told you that hydrogen is what turned diamonds yellow. Boron is what turns diamond blue, like the Hope diamond. And that's also the only type of diamond that is attracted by magnets. And it's not the carbon, it's the boron in the stone. So you could probably pick up the Hope diamond with a. Next time you're there, you can give it a try. It's at the Smithsonian if you want to see it. The other thing about that Hope diamond that you might find interesting, about 38% of diamond fluoresce. And that means if you turn on an ultraviolet light near the stone, it will excite the electrons, and the stone will actually look whiter. It'll have a whiter look to it, or blue, a slightly blue tint to it. And but the minute you turn off the light, the ultraviolet light, it'll go back to the original color. The Hope diamond phosphoresces, and normally the fluorescent colors are blue, sometimes green, sometimes yellow, but mostly blue. But the Hope diamond phosphoresces red. Now, if you've ever been to the beach and ran your hand through the water and it lit up, that's phosphorescence in the composition of that. That happens in gemology also. But the difference is when you turn the light off on a fluorescing stone, it immediately stops. If you do it with a phosphorescing stone, it dissipates and goes away. The Hope diamond phosphoresces red. And so if you go to the Smithsonian and you see the diamond, it's in light that doesn't really show it off all that well, because you can't have the ultraviolet on there, and that would be full spectrum light, which would let the diamond do what it's supposed to do, reflect and refract light. And so you don't have the correct refracting because of the lighting situation. So if you turn that off and put in regular, full spectrum lighting on it, the diamond will light up red, and it's blue, so it looks purple. But they don't want it to be purple, they want it to be blue, because that's what the Hope diamond is. The Hope diamond is blue, and everybody knows that, and so the lighting that you'll see it under is not what it could be elsewhere. Now, let's go to value. How we doing time-wise? Yeah, pretty good. The biggest question that comes up, because you can buy the lab-created diamonds at least 40 to 50% less. The upside, there's an upside and downside to everything. The upside is that we deal a lot with kids that come out of college with astronomical bills. and they want to get engaged, and they don't want the training bra of diamonds. They want to get her something that she's going to be proud of to wear and not have to change out later or be embarrassed about, which that's what happens. They get embarrassed because of their peers. You know, if they all, everybody else. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you that's what happens. We deal with it every day. With the lab-created stones, the Federal Trade Commission said they are the same. But because you have to use origin on every other diamond, like when they were from Russia or can't be from Russia, then we have to guarantee they didn't come from Russia. So they said that the creation of the diamond was an origin. That was the origin of the stone. And so we do have to disclose that those stones are lab grown, lab created. And their language is very specific on what we have to use. We can't make up our own nomenclatures on it. They told us what we need to do. So you don't have to be worried about that if you're at a reputable jeweler. They're going to tell you. But you can also guess if the diamond is 40 to 50% less than the naturally occurring stones, then, you know, I'm telling you, from my experience, the way we sell is different. We don't have a showroom. Everybody works in private offices. We don't have display lights. In those offices, there's diamond grading lights. We sell diamonds the same way we buy them. So we feel like that's the only way to be honest with our customers. But when they're sitting there and in a little white tray, a grading tray, we'll take all the diamonds that we have at the time, whether or not they're treated or untreated, or created or naturally created stones, and we line them up. And before we say anything else, we turn around and say, pick the one that you think represents what you want to buy for the same money, for the same outlay. I can tell you 99% of the time it's a lab-grown stone because they are so much bigger and because they didn't lose much weight in the cutting because they're cleaner. The rough is cleaner so that the cutter doesn't have to be, he has to be as meticulous, but he can put his energies or her energies into the fashioning of the stone so that the angles of reflection and refraction are what they need to be in order for the diamond to do its job, and that is to return as much brilliance and as much fire, the spectral light, as possible. And so that gives us an opportunity to be showing a whole array of stones. Now, it puts me in an awkward position because I've got about 300 naturally occurring diamonds in my safe. And I'm trying to figure out what to do with them. Because it's an issue because that's a big part of my balance sheet that's sitting there and everybody's saying, well, I want the big one. And, you know, and in truth, they are the same. So I don't even have a good argument for them. Now, they'll say, well, what are they going to be worth in 5 years? As if they're selling for less now. You know, what's going to happen over the next 5 years? Well, we don't really know what's going to happen to naturally occurring stones, but depending on the person I'm talking to, and if it seems like they've got a weird sense of humor like mine, I'll say, oh, you're going to be married in 5 years? Well, you know, if I asked it really, it's a legitimate question because 50% of the people that walk in my door will not be married in 5 years. And then they say, what do I do with it? And that's a real big issue because there's no aftermarket on any diamond. I don't care where you buy it, and you don't hear it from any of the jewelers because they just don't want you to hear it. But the truth is, you're going to probably get on any diamond, maybe 20, 30% on the dollar. Now, you can do better buying a new truck. If you're looking for market, you know, what's the market going to be in 5 years? It's wrong. And the way we deal with that issue is not really glossing over it. We deal with it pretty straight on. And we just tell them, look, if you want to get a payoff, if you're looking for a payoff on what this purchase is, and you're going to be using it for an and especially an engagement, then when you propose, look in her eyes. Think about it. I will guarantee you'll never forget it, and neither will she. And that's your payoff, and it comes right now. So whatever happens in 5 years from now happens in 5 years. But the truth of the matter is that's not why you buy a diamond. Those diamonds may not cure illness anymore, or at least I don't think. But they sure do have a purpose. And even if you don't, if there's people that just really don't, you know, they just don't buy into it. And I don't even have a problem with that. I think, you know, I think everybody's right. And they have every right to be right. But if they are buying a diamond, they're buying it for some purpose. And if not for that purpose, it could be an important anniversary. And to that, if somebody is upgrading size-wise their diamond for an important anniversary, we won't, and they don't know what to do with what they're going to do with the other diamond, and they're trying to figure it out. And there's all these feelings that are tied up into it, you know, because that's what they got engaged with. And they've been married for 25 years, and you know, it's what to do. We set the diamond independent for her for free. We don't charge for it, and because we think it's important that she gets to keep that feeling. So that's what it's all about. That's how we're making the new ones, except they are still digging others out. But anytime, if you run across it or you have any questions, I'm always around, you know, just about every Thursday. And if I'm in town, I'm here. And I had 2 months shy of 10 years perfect attendance before I had to drop out for a couple of years, 3 years. Yeah. So I'll be around, and I'll be happy to answer or call me. And even if it's just, even if you're buying someplace else, and I really and truly mean that, because it's a relationship business. If you've got a relationship with somebody that you've done business with for a long time, and you've got some questions about what you're buying, call me. I don't have a problem in the world with it. You can send your kids to me then. Any questions? Yes?
I believe it used to be that there was a limitation on the size for the manufactured diamond. Has that gone away?
Yeah, it's about going out the window. As they have gotten better and better at it, oh, I'm sorry. She asked if there was a size limitation, and I think it probably was maxing out at a carat or a carat and a quarter at one time. But now we've sold 2 carat, 3 carat, 4 carats even. They're not cheap. I mean, you know, they're still thousands of dollars, but they're not $20,000, $25,000 the way it would be. So there's a lot larger stones. That's what's going to be hurting me with the 300 that I've got in the safe that you know, we don't know what to do with. So you can get much larger now for much less money. But the best part about it is they're the same. It's not like they're going to change. They can be around 2.5 billion years. They're not going to change over time, as long as unless you get in a fire. Diamonds burn. We're part of State Farm's National Replacement Service, and they burn. They're carbon, and if they get heated up enough, they catch on fire. And I've had to replace a few of them over the years, and they just can get milky looking, and all the edges get soft, and you wouldn't even recognize what it was. Anything else? Yes.
2 questions. First is, what kind of truck you recommend? And have the traditional miners, have they expanded their business to do not synthetic, but the created diamonds?
The big diamond, and what the question was, what are the traditional miners doing? And there are different kinds. The big firms, which do by far the most, it hasn't really had a tremendous amount of impact because they're still producing and they're selling, and it hasn't really affected the price much. It's still kind of hanging high for some reason or other. We haven't figured that out. You would think that they would lower price, but they haven't. They're trying to figure out ways of what to do, I think, right now to be able to deal with it. The people that I feel sorry for are the artisanal miners, the people that have gone, from some of the what do you call it, tribes and things, out to a creek where maybe periodically they can kind of get them out, and then they pan them for them like gold. That's gotta hurt. We haven't heard a whole lot about it, because I think they pan for other things too, including precious metals. So we really don't know, but if there's any part of the industry that will be affected there. Other than that though, every diamond's got to be dealt with the same way. They still have to be cut, they still have to be polished, and so all of the labor that goes into a mined diamond is exactly the same in a lab created stuff.
Chuck, did the people who developed the manufacturing process ever hold a patent?
Yes, and there have been some lawsuits about it because a few other people camped on and tried to, some people in Baltimore tried to, they were the original company, WD, and then a few other companies immediately found out what the technology was and started, but the patents were all in place, and there were some lawsuits. And I don't think anything ever finished up on it, but I know that there was a lot of horse trading that went on for a while. And I could, just as a side note though, and I'll be done, the methane, I found out, to my utter enjoyment, two ways, the two ways, the biggest ways that methane is introduced into air quality. One of them is beef belches, beef burps. I didn't know cattle burped. Anyway, beef burps, and the second thing is pig farts. Now, yeah, my smart customers want to know how do they collect the pig farts. I don't know how it happens, but those are the two things. And if it's somebody who seems to have a really good sense of humor, then I'll say, and so, if you're Jewish, you probably don't want the pig farts, because it wouldn't be kosher. Then it's not a kosher diamond. So, which is nonsense, but you gotta go with it. So, anyway, any other questions before I get thrown off the stage? Okay, thanks.
Oh, you can go home and tell your family we talked about pig farts today. I'm leaving that alone. Okay, well, I want to share some events, and thank you, Chuck, so much for sharing this information. I remember the very first fellowship that I ever attended as a new Rotarian was at your office. And we sat around, you gave us a little tip of things, so it's fun. And we'll be doing fellowships this year as well, so we get to meet other members in their businesses. But as a token of our appreciation today, we've donated a book in your honor to the Des Moines Public Library. And this book will become part of the Rotary Rosie Reader Van collection. And a club donated $40,000 in 2020 to the Des Moines Public Library to make that possible. So now, a few events coming up. We've got, in addition to our every Thursday at noon meeting, we'll have at least 2 opportunities every month for you to meet with one another. We have some information on your table and by the name badges, so you can keep track and attend some of these upcoming happenings. Remember, we've got our Second Chance Tuesdays. They take place every month on the second Tuesday of the month. We'll be back at the Big Grove on September 12th for fellowship and fun, which is free. Beer and food is on you. And the food's good there, so is the brew. And then next Thursday evening, we have opportunity to be the guests of the Des Moines Botanical Garden at their Music in the Gardens. And they've invited our club, so you and your guests can join us there. And they've waived the entry fee for us because you are a member of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. They'll have tables and chairs on their veranda for us, and an entry fee, like I said, has been waived. But we do need to tell the Botanical Gardens how many to expect, so we need to have you sign up. There's forms on the table, and use the link in this week's newsletter, and we need to know by Monday, this Monday, if you're going to be there next Thursday. So I hope you can join us for some music in the garden. And then, of course, September 14th, I really hope you've marked your calendars for our first ever Thank Fall evening social event at Jester Park Nature Center. Bring your guest, bring guests. Bring prospective members. Just join us for an evening of fun, friendship, and food from What You Smokin'. And I need to have a testimonial. Chris, tell me what you told Kitty the other day.
It's absolutely fantastic. Fantastic barbecue.
And how often do you go out at night?
Frequently.
Okay, so you know it's good. It comes from Luther. They've got a reputation. It's good barbecue, gotta tell you. So at any rate, not only we have food, fun, and friendship, but we're gonna be in a beautiful Iowa natural setting. So hope you can all join us. And we wanna be sure to be, our newest members are there so that we can showcase our members and get to know them better as well. And bring your potential guests so they can come and have fun with us as Rotarians. Our upcoming speakers, we've got some fun things on the ticket coming up here. Just remember, you need to RSVP by 9 a.m. the Wednesday before the meeting, and you cannot register your guests. You must do that through Kitty. So next week, August 24th, Isaiah Knox, he's the Executive Director of Urban Dreams and a state senator. On August 31st, Mike Whalen will join us to talk about what's going on at the Heart of America group, where he's the president and CEO. And September 7th, Carrie Johansson is the Energy Program Director with the Iowa Environmental Council. She'll be discussing clean energy for a thriving Iowa. So I want to thank you very much for being with us today and being a vital part of the Rotary Club of Des Moines, where Club 27 means business. Until we meet again, let's get out there and have some fun and do good in the name of Rotary. We are adjourned.